Sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AIM Impact on Your Health. AIM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AIM Impact on Your Health, heard every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AIM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, a friend of ours, we've had him on the show before. His background and his family's background is really quite an iconic figure in the supplement world. His name is Doug Ingoldsby. We're going to be talking today about how the FTC wants to chase SpongeBob out of your kid's cereal. FTC is getting pretty upset about the way advertising is going to capture your child's interest, which then makes you buy something in the store that you may ordinarily not want to buy, and the FTC is tired of it, and they're coming to crack down. We're going to be talking about this effort and this issue, which I have mixed feelings about, to be quite honest with you, but nonetheless, Doug Ingoldsby will be bringing us that message today. Now, in the course of our discussion with Doug, if you want to call in to ask a question or make a comment, that number, as always, will be 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Doug Ingoldsby today talking about the FTC, the onerous FTC. Anyway, be back with that right after that first break. When it comes to the calendar issues, hey, this is the last week in the month of July. We're going to be turning that page here by the time Saturday rolls around and moving into the month of August. It's that month where footballs fly and kiddies are getting to return, getting ready to return to school. On Friday, we'll do one together, you and I, talking about whatever's on your mind. And then when we come back on Monday and we're into the month of August, Vicki Southard's going to be here talking about how to slim down a stubborn, emphasis on the stubborn double chin. Then on Wednesday, Mark Underwood will be back. He is the inventor, founder of a company that manufactures a calcium-binding protein that he extracted from jellyfish that turns out to have quite a bit of effect on the ability to correct memory loss. And Lord knows there is just so much in the news about it. Going to be talking to us on Wednesday about that issue again, and a blood test now available to determine whether, there's a warning, whether there should be a warning about Alzheimer's or OBS lingering around the corner. Now, if you could do nothing about it, I think that test would be tragic. You'd run away from it. But if you can and should do something about it, you need to know there is a message to make those corrections, to not allow what is sort of written in the winds to actually take place. Anyway, we're going to be talking about that on Wednesday, August 4th, with Mark Underwood. Still waiting to hear from you. I got a couple emails on shows that you want to hear, because it's going to be gone for the entire week of the 16th to the 20th. There'll be 3 repeat shows back then, so if you have a desire to listen to a repeat show, let me know. And however it is that you want to let me know, you can call the office, you can email me, and we'll do it that way. When I return, because I keep getting more information about this, Jim Navarro called me again. Now, those of you who are long-time listeners of mine, remember the day back in 2000, 2001, when this family, Jim Navarro, along with his son, then 5-year-old Thomas Navarro, was literally fleeing from oppressive government regulation, which was compelling Thomas to receive a chemotherapy that he didn't want, and that his family didn't want him to have, but because he was a child, he was being ordered by the courts to do so. Anyway, after all was said and done, young Thomas Navarro eventually died from his neurological malignancy back in November 19th of 2001. I occasionally do talk to Jim Navarro over these many years, and we've remained good friends, but things are happening on the Thomas Navarro front. A documentary film is getting ready to be re-released. I had originally told you that it was going to be released in November. There has been a change. That's why I talked to Jim Navarro yesterday, gave me a call. It is to be released in September. When we get with him on the 23rd, we'll be hearing all about this 87-minute, I think I wrote this down correctly, 87-minute documentary on the entire saga of the Navarro family, in particular Thomas Navarro. So you got a look behind the scenes back then. We'll be returning to those scenes now in that documentary and sort of reliving it. I guess the moral of the story, or the basic theme about oppressive governments making you do things you don't want to, maybe that's still in play. Not maybe about it. I think it still is in play. Anyway, I'm told that people who've already previewed this are walking out. They didn't remember the Thomas Navarro saga, but they're walking out of their preview, and they are upset because they're finding out that what happened to Thomas Navarro can happen to you just as easy, and you can't do a thing about it, at least the way the current law stands. Anyway, we'll be with Jim Navarro on the 23rd. And then, of course, on the 25th, we're going to be with our good friend James Roberts, a extraordinary cardiologist from the state of Ohio over in Toledo. But he, in collaboration with another cardiologist, whom you do know also, Dr. Stephen Sinatra, wrote a book. I say this book is a textbook for those of you who want to be managed correctly with respect to your cardiovascular issues. It is new age, no doubt about it, and it's practiced here, and it's been practiced here for the longest time. If you deal with your own PCP or family doctor, many of these issues are going to be concepts that are going to be difficult for him to swallow. I say take a copy of this book in there with you, and you'll be given the credibility and the respect that you need rather than just spewing this stuff forth. Because I think you're going to scare the guy if you do. Anyway, James Roberts will be with us. We'll find out what he's been doing, because it's going to be at least a year, and even longer, since we last spoke to him. So Jimmy Roberts in the month of August, and then by the 25th, I'll really be having a smile on my face. My kids will be ready to get back to school really close at that point. Okay. Let's see, in the news. Came across an interesting article. Well, it wasn't an article, but it was a blurb from Joe Mercola, and it was interesting. The byline of this is 2 foods you should never, ever eat after exercise. Well, whenever I see a list of 1 or 2 or 5 or 7, it always piques my interest, so I read about it. And I picked up the article. And I think it's worthwhile to pass on to you. Many of you are continuing to follow your own exercise programs. And as it turns out, there are 2 benefits that are obtainable when you exercise. One is that burning of calories and this cardiovascular burst of expenditure of energy that's good for your entire system. And that, of course, is something that you always, it's exhilarating to you. It makes you feel good, a sense of accomplishment. And so that kind of exercise is always good. Also, too, one thing that you may not understand, because I really didn't appreciate it, that there's an HGH, human growth hormone benefit, that you get after exercise is complete. Now, this is something I didn't know about. And so this HGH benefit is also called HGH synergy benefit, and it naturally occurs after exercise. Well, it does occur after exercise unless you happen to eat these 2 no-no foods, because if you do, although you'll be able to burn calories and get the heart moving and get the blood moving around, you will completely quash the HGH synergy component, which, as I say, I'm just learning about myself, and that Joe Mercola pointed out to me and allowed me to read a little more about it. What are these 2 foods? What are the foods you're supposed to be avoiding? Well, these 2 foods are sugar in any form and fructose. That's why it caught my eye again. We had just been discussing the issue of fructose, the fructose content in a lot of foods and fruits. And should you consume within 2 hours after exercise, sugar in any of its forms, or fruit juices in any of their forms, which have high fructose content, although you will have gotten the caloric benefit from the exercise, you will crush the HGH Synergy bonus, as it's called. I particularly mention this because there is a image that we all have. I guess it got started way back in the 1980s with the invention of Gatorade. And every time you see athletes on the sidelines consuming it during football season, it's usually for the fact that Gatorade does get water replenishment back into the system much quicker than drinking water alone. So to the extent, and I think the reason why these athletes are consuming something like Gatorade, which has a high sugar content, it's not to get the benefit of exercising of the game, it's to get the ability to replenish water. But I think that the community, the lay public, the ones that aren't on the football teams, the ones that don't have the trainers carrying the big buckets of Gatorade near the bench, also too move to Gatorade. They see it being used in an athletic competition. They move to using it themselves. And so on the one hand, they would never want to take sugar after exercise. On the second hand, they would and do and are taking large amounts of high sugar containing things like Gatorade and those other power drinks. They're called recovery drinks, okay? And so I pass that on to you, that this is information that just came by and never really heard about this HGH Synergy bonus before. You'll quash it, you won't get the benefit, and it is a bonus that you'd want to have. So watch out for those recovery drinks, and we'll let it go at that. Thank you, Joe Merkel. Okay, let's take a short break. On the interim, we're going to go find Doug Ingoldsby. He's in New York somewhere. I talked before we were on the air. We'll get back on in just a minute talking about how the FTC wants to chase SpongeBob out of your kids' cereal bowl. Be back in a moment.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you were looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Have you been to the doctor lately? Was fatigue top of your complaint list? Even if your doctor asks you what you eat, the recommended 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day is a dream in your busy schedule. What if you learned of a product 5 years in the formulation that delivers 5 servings of fruits and minerals in just 1 ounce? That's right, it's Fruit the Spirit. The blessings of Fruit the Spirit are now formulated into a delicious whole fruit puree product rich in antioxidants and minerals. Your health is more than just a test result. It's a balance of physical, spiritual, and emotional factors. You work regularly to strengthen your faith. Let Fruit the Spirit help cover your nutritional needs in a convenient and cost-effective ounce a day. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Fruit of the Spirit, 5 servings of fruits and minerals with no added sugars. That's 1-800-442-3793 for your good health. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Here on this Wednesday morning version of the show, we're here today and we'll be interviewing, I promise you we're going to be interviewing Doug Ingoldsby, but in the interim, as I normally dial up the guest, I kept getting an answering machine, and I called up the cell phone of the gentleman, and he didn't know about the answering machine. He said, look, what, give me 5 minutes to go shut that thing down. And so we're going to take a few minutes before we take another break and allow ourselves to go find Doug again. I promise you he's there. He's in waiting. He's absolutely chomping at the bit to get a chance to talk to you. It's just he has to turn the answering machine off so he can actually know that a phone call's coming in. Anyway, that's how it was explained to me. We have so many things we just recently have covered here. I will tell you that high on my list of issues with respect to patients that I'm seeing here in the office, we have revealed a new term. We call it a stealth diabetic. You can, and I did, call it a closet diabetic for various reasons, because it's so possible for you to be either skirting the border of diabetes or frankly already have stepped over that line when fasting blood sugars, and only fasting blood sugars, are being used to make the call as to whether you're diabetic or not. Now, I say this knowing full well that my colleagues, the medical world, looks at the fasting blood sugar and does allow it to dominate their feelings about you with respect to the risk you may have of developing diabetes. What I'm here to tell you, because I do so many blood testings here, where I actually order in every patient, whether, just every patient. And, of course, some of them diabetics, some of them aren't, and the vast majority of them aren't. But I've been looking at these hemoglobin A1Cs when matched up to fasting blood sugars for a number of years now, and I had to pass on the fact that I have come across so frequently a hemoglobin A1C, which is literally a 90-day sort of home DVD in HD about how your blood sugar runs over a 3-month period, as opposed to a fasting blood sugar where it's just a glimpse and a snapshot of a moment in time. So if you do a fasting blood sugar at 8 in the morning before you have eaten, I believe it's very possible. In fact, I can tell you that it's possible to have an absolutely normal-looking fasting blood sugar, yet a hemoglobin A1C that's raging out of control. And this is the dilemma and dichotomy that's going to be missed by your current doctor unless you insist that he or she asks in your behalf to order a hemoglobin A1C and not just the standard blood work, a fasting blood work that allows him to look, he or she to look at what your blood sugar level is. So, that being said, get a knock on the door, come on the store, hello, and welcome aboard, hello.
Dr. Courtney, this is Doug.
Doug, all right, you wouldn't found me.
I called you. The phone system here just went quacky, so.
Oh, look, I'm so glad you did. I was broke into a little bit of the teaching while I was going to call you up again. You took care of that answering machine, did you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, he finally arrived. I told you he was coming. I promised you he'd be here. Doug Ingoldsby. Let's see a little bit about Doug, because you've met him before. He's been on our show before. Let me fill in some of the blanks, because you're going to remember Doug from previous visits with us. He's called the Vitamin Professor. He's the founder of a California-based nutritional supplement maker, Crsck. Doug's family and the pedigree here with respect to alternative medicine is just impeccable. Doug's family has been pioneering in the vitamin business since 1936. Doug's father, James, was responsible for creating the first high-potency vitamin C tablet and worked with nutritionist Adele Davis to create the first stress formula vitamin and the first nutritional candy bar called Tiger's Milk. Doug was later responsible for research, testing, and development of the world's first complete high-potency multiple vitamin. As you can see, he ain't no rookie to the nutritional world, and he's here to talk today about, well, the government fixing to change some things. Doug, you have stumbled across a topic I haven't seen anywhere. The government is fixing to come in and upset the apple cart, so to speak, with respect to breakfast foods, aren't they?
Yeah, well, it's about time, I think. And what's happened is that, if you were to turn on the Super Saturday cartoon channels and were to watch, along with some, 5-year-old or whatever who's watching the cartoons that morning, you'd see that the cereals and the cartoon characters are one and the same. In other words, as they're going down the aisle with mommy in the supermarket, they see their favorite cartoon character on that very sugary cereal that's available for them. And, of course, I want, I need is the next thing out of their mouth. And most parents, when that happens, they say, okay, what the heck? But what the heck has ended up creating a nation of obese kids and pre-diabetic 8-year-olds and real serious problems. And the FTC is finally saying, look, this is a real health issue, and we're going to start controlling it a little bit.
Well, I certainly have taken that walk down the aisle, and I have my kids that literally, they tell me what cereal we're getting. In fact, they just put it in the doggone cart. Okay. And I never really took account of what the cartoon characters may have been, because I wasn't privy to that. That was happening at another time, but it was obvious to me that they knew about this cereal. I saw it maybe for the first time. I wondered what that is. Well, so it turns out, with the story you're telling, more than likely, it was something that they saw on our television set at home, and it captured their interest, and I can certainly verify the fact that there's a lot of high sugar content in these cereals. What is the nutritional value to be found in the bulk and the majority of these cereals?
Well, pretty much nothing. I mean, not only, well, they do put a few vitamins and minerals in there, but it's kind of on the level of what's happening right now with the lawsuit that's going on with Coca-Cola and the FTC on vitamin water. Vitamin water, it sounds to the layman, they think, oh, vitamin water, hell, I'll drink the water and I'll get my vitamins. Well, basically, the amount of vitamins that are in there is like they kind of waved a vitamin over the top of it as it went to the bottling plant.
Uh-huh.
And really what's in there is high fructose corn syrup and some dyes and things to make it a pretty color. But people were actually under the assumption that they were getting vitamins and water, because that's what it says. It says vitamin water. And so it's the same thing is true with these cereals. They'll put, 1 or 2 B vitamins in there so that it says enriched or something. But if you read a label, and when consumers read labels, they have to understand that whatever is on the top of the list is whatever there's the most of in there. And you can go into the supermarket, and this is a fun experiment to do, actually. You go into the supermarket and look at these, the real heavy sugary ones, the ones usually with the cartoon characters on them. And it'll say, the first ingredient will be high fructose corn syrup or sugar or some, usually those are the 2 terms that are used. And then the next ingredient right below that is corn. So that means that there's actually more sugar in that box than what the sugar is sitting on. There's more sugar in there than there is the cereal that it's sitting on. And so even though there might be a few vitamins, put in there just for the sake of looking good, sugar just basically across the board wipes vitamins out of the system, especially your B complex vitamins, vitamin C, the water-soluble vitamins are used up pretty dramatically in the process of metabolizing a sugar molecule. So when that hot calorie, that sugar calorie, is being used up by the body, being converted to energy by the body, if it doesn't have high potency nutrients around it, it's going to grab them from wherever it can in order to facilitate that metabolization process. And what that means is that it'll take them out of the cells of the body, and that's what's been happening to people that are eating this crap. Is that they're basically, it's like putting a vacuum cleaner in your system and sucking all the nutrients out of it.
Now, according to what you sent me, and I've been looking over here, the new guidelines, so they already formed. The new guidelines are already set to go?
Yeah, well, it's all in committee right now, and there's a lot of power, in the food processing industry, and certainly the corn industry has a big, major lobby in our government. Somebody the other day said, well, why is there so much high fructose corn syrup, And the person who answered the question said, well, the first primary is in Iowa. If the first primary was in Vermont, it would be maple sugar. So,
gotcha. Very good.
So who knows? I mean, there's a lot of backroom deals that are made, but they are trying to actually set guidelines now. And it's going to be tough, but I was thinking back, you have Arlene on your show, Bleeker, who's a co-author with Emmanuel Crsck of Psychodietetics.
Oh, sure, Arlene Drucker.
Yeah, and Sherry was a good friend of mine, and he used to talk about how devastating sugar was, but now we have this high fructose corn syrup, which is, even a more dangerous animal, and it's in just about everything. And, we're much more obese as a nation than we were when I got into the vitamin business, which was in the early 70s. And one of the reasons is just because, it just goes straight to storage fat. It doesn't really do anything else other than that. And other problems that are created by it. So it's very, very hard for people to get nutrients from the foods they're eating right now.
Now, this has been going on for quite a while. I mean, when you and I were kids, we were I remember the cartoon shows, now that you brought that to my attention. And I know that I asked and compelled my parents to, was it that the cereal of the day, even though they were utilizing me as a little robot there, they were giving that message while I was watching the cartoons. And I was compelled. I went out there and I made sure we got certain. Were the cereals of that day healthier all around, or were they the same?
Well, it's kind of, processed foods have been with us for a long time. I mean, I think probably the 1950s are when really the refined carbohydrates started really making their show in our food chain. That was why Adele, being a lady, when women were supposed to be in their 50s, they were supposed to stay in the kitchen and just mind their own business, and she basically took on the big food processors and took on the medical establishment and basically, set up a flare that said, look, you're creating a major health crisis here, and you've got to start, leaving whole grains in and start eating more vegetables and more fruit, all of the stuff that we hear now. But, she was really going up against, a whole country that thought that it had found, something really super in all this refined foods. So it was there back then, but nowadays, I would say in the 50s, people used to eat at home more. Oftentimes, one of the parents was at home and would, take the time to go to shop and buy the right foods and prepare the meals and that type of thing. And I was reading a study the other day that said that basically, we're lucky if we eat one meal at home a day, and the average is one. And that means that most people their lives are so busy and so crazy and so full of activity and, working 8 jobs and whatever, that they basically, grab something at some fast food place. And, there's enough calories in there to keep you going, but there's really not enough calories. There's certainly not enough nutrition in there for the needs of a good, healthy, functioning body.
So what I hear you saying is the breakfast component of everyday living is probably similar to or almost exactly like what it is now. Back then, it was the same. Except from breakfast on.
It's pretty much the same, but there's been a couple things that happened. One, with the discovery of cholesterol, which gave eggs a bad name. Eggs used to be the classic breakfast food, and I think it's just a crime that eggs have been so maligned because, you know, people, the cholesterol that comes from an egg is actually the good cholesterol that your body actually needs. And if you think about it, it's like Crsck used to say, it's like when all of a sudden there was high cholesterol, it wasn't like everybody started eating 3 dozen eggs every day. What changed was people started eating more and more sugar, and that sugar converts into the bad cholesterol. That's where you're getting, you know, that's the change in the food grouping that happened that caused this cholesterol buildup in people. So it's the same, but it's a little worse in the sense that the type of sweetener they're using is a little more, a little worse for you. You know, it's not cane sugar anymore. And also just the nature of the fact that, you know, you might get a sugary cereal in the morning in the 1950s, but you get a good lunch and a good breakfast, so that kind of saved the day. But now you get a sugary cereal in the morning, and then you grab something at the fast food place, and you're bad out of luck by that time.
Well, I've heard a statement recently, and I mentioned on the airways here many times. I think you may have heard the same thing. It's a scary statistic, and it goes something like this. I'd like you to comment on it. That this may be the first time in all of world history that this generation right now, our kids, are probably not going to live as long as the previous generation. Like, every generation, as far back as you can go, lived longer than its preceding generation until now. It looks as though our kids really are in such bad shape, more than likely because of their nutrition, that they're not going to live as long.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful statement.
That's a powerful statement. I've heard it mentioned many times, and it certainly hits you right in the gut to think that that's happening. But as you say, the difference between the then of my generation, where breakfast was maybe bad, but you ate home the rest of the day. You had the lunch, you had the dinner, but now, heck, it's McDonald's this and Burger King that and Kentucky Fried this, and so it is nothing but junk after junk after junk the entire day, which these kids feast on, and we did not. So that is one heck of a change.
Right. Well, and also the other thing too, it's an entire lifestyle change. You know, right now there's a vitamin D deficiency epidemic.
Oh, there sure is.
Taking place among adults, but also among children. And the way they found it with children, the Mayo Clinic, a couple other big Kaisers, a couple other big hospital groups started noticing a lot of broken bones among kids between the ages of like 5 and 8 or something like that. And so what they did was they started drawing blood on these kids, and they found that they actually had rickets, which is a vitamin D deficiency disease. Now, vitamin D deficiency diseases, we've had them at different times. When kids were stuck in sweatshops and inside all day long, there was that outbreak of rickets that happened because they were inside. But now what's happening is that when kids come home from school, they're inside at school.
They're inside on this.
They come home, instead of going outside and getting on the bike and kicking the ball around or doing whatever we did when we were kids, they go inside and get in front of a gaming console or a computer and start working their games and that type of thing. And so they're, you know, vitamin D is called the sunshine vitamin because it's if your body is exposed to sunshine, your skin, your derma, your retina, with your eyes is exposed to sunshine, it actually creates vitamin D, and it's one of the few vitamins that's actually created in the body. But because our lifestyle has changed so dramatically, now we're finding, you know, with adults, we're inside a lot, and then we're also paranoid of skin cancer, that when we do go out in the sun, we smear ourselves with this sunblock so that also blocks the rays that create vitamin D in the system. So it's funny, you know, Dr. Courtney, I think vitamin D has finally kicked vitamin C off of its crown king position as the most talked about vitamin in the last 2 or 3 years. It's like, you know, vitamin D now is the new superstar of vitamin.
It is the new superstar. It's in every aspect of medicine. I will say that the problem I find with the vitamin D issue is They say the normal range is 32 nanograms per milliliter. I've been testing hundreds of people over the last year and a half.
Right.
And my list is now 8. In other words, of all the testing, which is in the hundreds, I have had 8 patients, and only 8 who've had a vitamin D level of 32 or higher. And when I say higher, I don't mean super much higher. I'm just talking about over the line.
Right.
8. Because
Right.
we're here in Pittsburgh, and I don't know where you live, in New York, so you're probably similar to us. Between the months of September and May, there is no direct sunlight you can even get.
Right.
So we are paying a heck of a price for our northern hemisphere living, and they say that above the 35th parallel, which is somewhere around Atlanta, Georgia, above the 35th parallel, between the months of September and May, you cannot get any direct sunlight, even if you ran outside, excuse the term, butt naked, okay? You can't get direct sunlight. You have to supplement, and you have to supplement with a lot, not a little.
Right.
And I think well, let me ask you this. You make vitamins.
Right.
You brought the vitamin D issue up. Now, I'll bring that issue up with you.
Uh-huh.
I found that the standard amount in any multiple has been 400 units of vitamin D. Would you say I was right or wrong about that?
Well, it was interesting because for years we were told, never go over, I think 400 or 500. It was like 400 or 500. Never go above that because vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin.
Toxic,
It can
right?
accumulate in the body.
Yeah.
And, the same type of scare tactic that they use about vitamin A. And now they're saying, oh my gosh, a person should get 1,000 international units of vitamin D a day. And it's probably true because our lifestyle has changed so dramatically, and our food chain has changed so dramatically that, and research has started to indicate that the vitamin D levels should be more. I mean, we have the supplement All-One, which is the powder that you talked about at the top of the show. And we used to have 500 international units, and now we've bumped it to 800. And we've also, in our senior formula, we bumped it to 1,000. And once in a while, periodically, we will take, the research in, kind of digest it, and make these slight adjustments. I mean, the formulation that we have in this powder is pretty close to what my dad and Adele came up with way back when. So we've been able to add various like food groupings like green foods and things that weren't really available in those days. And when I met Dr. Crsck back in 1973 or 4 or something, I asked him what is his recommendation, and he'd never met Adele Davis. He had, heard of her certainly, but he'd done all of his own research, and he put together a formulation, and he showed me what his recommendations were. And he had a spread, like 10 to 25 milligrams of the B vitamins, and we always tended to come in on the high side, but it was almost identical. So it's not really rocket science in terms of multiple supplementation. It's something that's out there. The research is in, the products have been out there long enough. But we do adjust it from time to time, and this new vitamin D change is something that is we have just recently made, and we're keeping our eye on it. It may go up a little more, but right now, for sure, 800 to 1,000 IUs a day is probably just fine.
Well, let me just tell you about part 2 to the story I started with a moment ago. In these hundreds of patients where I got vitamin D levels, only defined 8, the number 8, were at a level of 32 nanograms per milliliter or higher. In every one of those cases, I talked to those patients afterwards and said, what? Hey, congratulations, you at least have what's considered a normal vitamin D level when so many others are off the mark. I go, with respect to vitamin D, what do you do? And the answer was, in all 8 cases, vitamin D. I've been taking extra vitamin D for, the number varied between 1 year and 3, and the amount was between 5,000 and 10,000 a day for that period of time just to get over the line.
Right.
Now, we have to talk about a normal level versus an optimal level, and I'm told that optimal levels, it's down to the level that I go after, is somewhere up in the 80 range, okay? So you've got to get there with not 1,000 a day. You can put it in a multiple, but you have to supplement vitamin D, as I've now learned, all by its lonesome self, especially if you live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and between the months of September and May, even if you ran around outside, excuse the quotation, butt naked, you can't get any natural vitamin D because there is no direct sunlight. The earth is tilted.
Right, I completely concur with that.
So it's a ardent and difficult path to get to normal levels by consuming just that small amount that might be contained in a multiple. I find that my colleagues in the conventional medical world, the bulk of them, still make that relationship that you made a moment ago when you said that it was incriminated. Vitamin D was incriminated along with vitamin A,
right,
because they're both fat soluble, and you can easily become toxic with vitamin A. You can.
Well, you can become toxic with vitamin D, but it's in millions of units.
Yeah, it is really high, and when they measured...
I mean, you can become toxic with water if you drink too much. It's called drowning.
Well, here's the unique little fact, and I've taken the time to research it. I'm passing it on to you,
okay,
certainly my listeners. They measured the vitamin D level in Polynesian males. Now, they run around out there with a little loincloth on, no shirt. And they're out in the sun from sun up to sundown every day. And their levels are in the 80s, so to speak. Nobody is dropping over on the beach, okay?
Right.
Being overcome with toxic amounts of vitamin D. So I think if you stayed in that, and to close it off, and I'm like this vitamin D fact machine right now, please excuse me, but to close it off is that really what caught my eye was they finally did a study showing the relationship between the incidence of all the diseases, and as you move away from the equator, whether it's to the north or the south, the further away from you get from the equator, the incidence of every one of those diseases increases exponentially with respect to how far away you are from the equatorial region, which pretty much confirmed the fact that vitamin D is a big player in all diseases.
Right.
And I rest my case. Sorry.
No, I absolutely concur with that.
I had to get that off my chest.
And the other thing, too, I think it's important for the listeners to know is that one of the factors that vitamin D affects dramatically is your mood. It's like, I mean, there's a reason they call it the sunshine vitamin, and it's probably why the people that live in the Polynesian islands seem so content and so happy, because there is an actual mood factor that vitamin D affects. I'm not sure exactly of the whole neurotransmitter and how it works, but I know that in areas of the country or the world where vitamin D deficiency exists, we've all heard of the winter blues, or the, people in Alaska that go in these really big funks when during the long winter.
It's called SAD, right? Seasonal affective disorder.
Right.
And you treat it with light.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And there's so many diseases, and I'm using air quotes for all you radio listeners, that are out there that are being now treated with antidepressants. And, or kids with these behavioral problems are being treated with Ritalin, which are essentially amphetamine compounds. And, kids don't have a Ritalin deficiency. They do have vitamin deficiencies. And if you can straighten out that nutritional component, if you can supplement your kid's diet with a good supplement, and like we've been saying through the whole show so far, how difficult it is just from foods. So I'm talking about actually finding them a good supplement. And when you look for a supplement for kids, look for something that doesn't have a bunch of colors and sweeteners and all that crap. They get enough of that anyway. But just a good, pure, multiple supplement that they can get and take every day. And if that happens, the behavioral issues just kind of straighten themselves out by themselves. And then you don't have to turn to... I find really one of the things that's happening in our society that's just criminal is that, one hand you're saying to kids, just say no to drugs, and then the next minute you say, make sure you take your Ritalin. So it's just like the mixed signals that kids are getting, and it's hard for them. I mean, they're eating sugary foods. They're inside all day long. I mean, they've got a whole mess of factors working against them And so it's really up to the parents to really, kind of help them out and get them a good supplement, and they'll see the turnaround. They'll see the turnaround in the mood. They'll see the turnaround in the behavior, and I also feel that we were talking about sugar earlier, that sugar is like the gateway drug for kids, because that's the first time that a kid has an experience of taking a substance and having a change in their consciousness. And any parent who thinks that it doesn't change their consciousness never had their kid come home from Halloween and had to scrape them off the ceiling. So it's a really important factor that, that they get the nutrients that they need, and they get them at an early age, because they're building their body right now, and they can't build it out of hollow calories. They'll build something, but it'll be riddled with disease for the rest of their life. And I think that fact that you brought up, Dr. Courtney, and the fact that this is the first generation that's actually probably going to live shorter, with all the wonders of science and medicine and yada, 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 and the healthcare debate and everything, I mean, that's a really powerful statement.
It's a very powerful
It's probably true.
Hit me in the gut the moment I heard it, and I just pass it on. Folks, you're with Doug Ingoldsby. Let's take a short break, Doug. What do you think?
Yes.
We'll encourage you out there, because I know you'll take it if you get any questions, to give us a call, 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. You're with Mr. Doug Ingoldsby. We will be back in a moment.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu in wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good
Are you there?
is a sparkle. Here's the spirit.
Okay, coming back here in a second. What area you want to get into? We got about 12 minutes left. Any area in particular you want to move to?
We can talk about supplements. We can talk about the kids' vitamins.
Let's talk about that.
With the Feingold Institute.
Okay, I've never heard of it.
Feingold organization, Ben Feingold. Oh, you haven't?
Huh. We'll talk about it.
Surprise. Well, we'll talk about that.
All right.
Ben was the first one that started noticing. I say Ben like I was my best friend. Well, Dr. Feingold was the first one that noticed that these food additives, the colorings, the dyes,
allergic
cause these behavioral problems in kids. And so he's not even with us. The organization that he started has really been a pioneer in that, and they're great.
So the question is, for parents, how do you select that multiple vitamins that they so desperately need? How's that?
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Okay.
The expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Good morning and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here at the AM Impact on Your Health Show on a Wednesday morning with a good friend of ours. You've met him before many times. He's as knowledgeable as it comes on supplementation. He's been in the industry for so long, and his family's been pioneers in this industry. We're talking about how the FTC is going to be changing some things, and he seems to think that this is going to be much for the better. Certainly made a case as for why. And we're going to be talking about supplementing your kids and how you go about selecting the kind of vitamin to do that. We do have a knock on the door. It must mean a question for Doug. Come on the store. Hello and welcome aboard. Go right ahead. Hello?
Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. You're with Doug Ingoldsby. Go right ahead.
Hi, I have a physician that brings a cardiologist in every other Wednesday. And it's funny you mentioned this vitamin D. Whenever I reviewed my results, he told me I had virtually no vitamin D3 in me.
It's correct. Well,
You're not alone.
He's not alone, and so yes, we now have given up the secret here. I am your physician, and I know who you're talking about. I know the voice, but it just isn't. It shouldn't be scary. Everybody, except for 8 patients now, only 8 have ever had what we consider to be substandardly low, but yet normal vitamin D levels. And so you got to be looking to get that level up. We've talked about how we're going to do it in you. And
Right, we talked about 5,000 milligrams a day.
yeah, well, that's where you got to start. That's at a minimum.
I think it's in international units is the way that it's.
Is that what it is?
It's units, not milligrams.
5,000 IUs.
I mean, he said I virtually had none.
Nah. And we're on our way to 80. So you got a long way to go, but hey, you'll get there. Thanks for the call.
Good day.
All right.
Okay, great. Good luck.
All right. No fair. All right, we got another. Hey, they're trying to get at you, Doug. Another knock on the door. Come on the store. Hello. Hello.
Good morning.
Hey.
Doug and Dr. Courtney.
Yes.
One of your Butler fans. But I called in earlier, and then Doug got on, and I am so glad you brought up vitamin D because that's what I wanted to ask Dr.
Oh, go ahead. Go right ahead.
So
What's on your mind?
perfect. How high is too high now? My friend's daughter had her vitamin D taken, and I think it was like 106 or something like that.
Well, let's just say the first thing is when you get a vitamin D level, you must make certain that you're asking for 25-OHD3. I know it sounds like a bunch of chemistry, but there are 5 different vitamin Ds. And I'm concerned if you're telling me that somebody has 106, which is okay, by the way. I love that. But if they're doing nothing special and they have 106 level, I question the kind of vitamin D that was ordered. So that's
They were, Dr. Courtney, because her daughter has cancer, and she had been taking like 10, and then she upped it to 20,000.
There we go. Well, then I think that she has arrived where she needs to be.
Oh, that's wonderful.
The vitamin D amount in this particular case is well within the optimal range and still not in the toxic range. So whatever she needs to do to keep it there, that's what my recommendation
I
would be.
didn't know if she should back that down to 10 or stay at 20.
Well, whatever allows her to stay at 100, as she's checking it, that was a wise move for somebody who has cancer, because cancers are associated with low vitamin D level, all forms of cancer.
Well, I think that's what happened, that she wasn't, and she's not a sun person, so you hit the nail on the head. This is such a great subject. Should she stay at 20 and be tested again?
Whatever allows her to remain at 100 in terms of nanograms per milliliter. And okay, you said she had the right level measured,
right.
So I think
she's probably being monitored fairly,
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you who it is. It's Dr. Carey. We just love him so much.
he's a great guy, yeah.
He is just the best, and I'm so glad
landed in the
you
right
put us
place.
on to him. He was on your show, and I just...
Oh, yeah, he's a personal friend of mine.
He's the greatest.
He'll be able to manage that one. Okay.
So we're being taken care of pretty good then.
Yes, you certainly are with Dr. Carey at the moment.
I will tell her. Thank you so much for your show, and God bless you, and I'm glad you're there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There's someone who picked up on their vulnerability.
Right.
Anybody is concerned with cancer. By the way, how about this one? There's such a fuss made by the dermatological community about sun exposure. You mentioned a moment ago, if you put any of that gunk on, you just block out all the UVB rays, and you can't. Well, 99.9% of all UVB rays are blocked out, and you don't get any conversion in your vitamin D. Right. Because everybody's scared to hell and back, so to speak, on this sun exposure issue.
Right.
What we're finding out is, remember those Polynesian guys that run around with that loincloth? They don't have skin cancers, okay, in Polynesia. Because it looks as though, and I say this without confirmation, it looks as though vitamin D is protective against skin cancers. And for you to get protected, you have to build that level up pretty doggone high. The people in Polynesia have done it. They don't get malignant melanoma in Polynesia. You can't find it. So there's a pretty good hint that this thing about the scare with the sunlight exposure is probably not warranted. yet you have to build that vitamin D level up if you're going to be able to handle it. You need that much vitamin D.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And you know, the other thing is true. If you live in Polynesia, the chances are very good that your diet is very high in fish. And fish is probably one of the most excellent sources of vitamin D from food.
Excellent point. By the way, let's just go to Polynesia. I think I'd love.
I
wear that loincloth. I'd love walking around those beaches. What a life! What a wonderful life that is.
I like the idea.
Folks, we're here with Doug Ingoldsby. Doug, you are a manufacturer of vitamins. Your family has been pioneers in this. We're talking about vitamins, and we started out with kids. Let's come back to kids.
Right.
Parents are listening, and I'll tell you who else. Grandparents are listening right now, and they want their grandchild or their child to live as long, if not longer, than they did. Supplementation is going to help get in there. How should they select that supplement? Key question.
Well, you know, it's really kind of a sad tale that most of the kids' vitamins out there, and certainly the most popular ones, come in the form of these kind of gummy, chewy, sugary things,
and gummy,
or they're compressed tablets, and they come with some kind of dye, different colored dyes, red, green, orange, blue, and you know, that's exactly what you don't want your kids to supplement with, is dyes and sugar, because they get enough of that just anyway. So when we came up with the all-one powder, the formula that we created, it's basically just the pure nutrients. I like to think of it as like a scoop of all of the stuff that's been refined out of our food groups, and it's something you can put in your orange juice in the morning and shake it up and drink it.
All in one, you go. So we're getting bongoed here. We're going to have to leave the scene. Let's let the listener hear about where they can get a hold of that vitamin.
Well, All One is available at all health food stores like Vitamin Shop, Whole Foods. We have a website which is all-one, ALL-ONE.com. And they can go there. They can look at. We have vitamins for seniors. We have vitamins for kids, and everything in between. So we basically specialize in multiple powders. They're all free of flavors. They're free of sugar. We're endorsed by the Feingold organization, which I mentioned when we were off mic about. This is the doctor who really does not like dyes and colors and sugars and stuff. And even in the supplement industry, especially with kids supplements, it's harder to find a supplement that's pure, that gives them just the nutrients they need and not the bad stuff.
Thank you, Doug. I'm going to have to call it to an end right now. Folks, I hope you enjoy.
It's always fun.
Always fun being with you. We'll bring you back. Don't you worry. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for spending some time with us. Until Friday, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney with Mr. Doug Ingoldsby saying so long for an impact on your health.
Impact on Your Health is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
KHB reminds you, owning a home is part of the American dream. But beware of predatory mortgage lenders. The National Foundation for Credit Counseling can help. Contact an NFCC housing counselor near you by calling 1-866-845-2227 or visit www.nfcc.org.
Omega-3s are among the most important nutrients for longevity and healthy aging. Many of the common symptoms of aging arise from a loss in cell function. In order to function properly, cell membranes need to be fluid and flexible. And in order to be fluid and flexible, cell membranes need a daily supply of omega-3s. Scientific studies show that omega-3s are vastly deficient in the American food supply. They also show that the purest and most reliable source of omega-3s is a fish oil supplement. Of course, not all fish oils are created equal. Nordic Naturals fish oils provide industry-leading purity and freshness and a great fruity taste to give your cells the omega-3s they need to repair free radical damage and to function properly